Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video is very important. The reason is because many of you ask me that what are the roles in credit risk? What are the actually teams which are working inside the bank so that you can prepare for one of those teams and then you can get your dream job. So today I'm going to tell you line by line that there are only limited category of roles in technical domain. If you want to be part of a model life cycle, if you want to work for credit risk models, there are only 8 to 7 type of roles which are available in each of the bank, and this I'm telling you after checking with so many of multinational bank, which you can see in my resume, you can see on the background. Now the thing is that all these roles require certain skill set. So skill set wise, you need to understand that what work each role is actually doing in the pipeline, in that whole pipeline of the bank. Now I'll go one by one. I'll tell you what are the teams which are there. Then you can ask me if you have any certain doubts. So number one is the model identification. So there is a team which is called model identification team, or sometimes they call it initiation also. Okay, both are same thing. So there is a business team on the back end that do the identification or the initiation, that what exactly the model we need to build, what are the products which are there which need actually the modeling concept to be implemented in them. Now all the business need identification work is done by this team. So there are business work identification. What is the meaning of this? This means that if there is a product in bank, for example, there is a mortgage portfolio. So this mortgage portfolio will need a proper model to be created. So this identification work is done by the model identification team. Then the second part which this team does is that what are the requirement on the basis of the need. So what are the requirement we need? So all the requirement definition which will be created for the model developers is prepared by this team. So this is team number one. So I'll talk about all the teams. So this is first team in all the bank, that what are the requirement on in which portfolio we need the model, and what exactly the definition of that particular requirement that is justified by this team. So this is not a very technical team. This is moreover a business team. So moreover people with heavy experience, like a good number of years experience, they are part of this team, or either some MBA graduates they will usually put in this area. Okay. So this is team number one. Then after the initiation, the second team is model development. Now I know this is very fascinating. All of you 90% people want to go into this team. Okay. Now after the requirement has been created and initiation has been done, now the part of development team comes to understand the business rule, understand all the business rule and the requirement, then work on the data collection. Like what are the inputs, everything. Then after the data collection, this is the team which do the feature engineering. Okay, like what are the columns which will be used, what is the purpose of that column, all those things are known as feature engineering. Like every column is a feature in the starting. Okay, so you can understand that feature engineering means the column engineering. Okay, then the most important part is build the model. The building of the model is either in SAS or Python. They build the model, and also do not miss, they need to document the model, because this documentation will be used by the validation team. Okay, so this work is done by the model development. This is team number 2. You can work in this area as well. Now for first one, you need to have good business understanding plus some very good strategic understanding. For this role, if you are targeting this role, you need to understand number one business, fair enough, not much in depth, but you should have very good understanding on either SAS or Python, because you will be building your model in SAS or Python. Your team can guide you in feature and data collection, all those things, but you have to write your code by your own self. That's why this role require a little bit of coding knowledge. You should have independent coding knowledge. Then now let's talk about the third role in the bank. Third role is IMV, independent model validation. So independent model validation, or IMV, what they do, like after the development, team has given the documentation. So they have got the submission from these guys. Now they have stored all this submission onto a repository. So this repository is completely now under the part of the validation team. So what they will do, development team would be doing their own checks while this independent model validation team would be doing their own things to validate the model. And that will be totally independent of the checks done by the model development. That's why it's an independent team. Now, conceptually soundness is very important for these people. These should know that how to measure the performance of the model. There are metrics for that. How to check the stability of the model. These things are very important, and the model validator should have a fair knowledge of all these things and a regulatory norm, that what regulatory want, so that whatever work is done by the development should be validated fully by the independent model validation. Sometime when they found some discrepancy in the data, they challenge the development team also that you have done the development in a wrong fashion. Okay. Now the fourth team and very, very important team which is there is the governance. So you might have heard of model governance. That's what I mean here. And these teams also give the approval to commission the model. That means these teams tell that now you can use this model in the real world. So basically, model risk committee is there. Now, model risk committee is the group of senior folks of the bank. They give the governance approval that this model is good to use. After the validation team submits every validation document and development team submits everything to them. Now, this governance team makes sure that what are the important things which need to be submitted, like the SAS code are working fine, the Python codes are properly documented, every business rule is documented there, and then they checks. There is a governance repository where they have all these submission done by the validation and the development team. So they check that also. Now, this team makes sure that whatever regulatory compliance requirement, those need to be satisfied by the bank or the model. In many bank, the implementation team also does this job, right? Implementation team also is part of this only. So you can say this implementation. Implementation means what? Nothing. It's testers. Implementation team are simply the tester of the model. They do the testing part using the script. They have their own script. They run those script and then they check whether the model is performing correct or not. Okay. So that's how this fourth team works. But this fourth team is very important from which perspective? From regulatory side. Now in India, the regulatory body is Reserve Bank of India. Similarly, in Canada, it's OSFI, and in US is Federal FED. Okay. They call it Fed. Now the next team which is part of this model life cycle is what? Model implementation. Actually, model implementation. Now, you can get confused that Rajat, you told us that the implementation is the fourth step. Now, this is something bit confusing for you. So let me clear that confusion. In some of the bank, the governance team itself is the implementation team, but in some of the bank, implementation team is different. Okay. So production environment level testing is done by the implementation team. As I said, these are the testers. Okay, these are the testers who are checking all the models. So you should have a good knowledge of Python scripting and maybe PySpark and SAS, so that you can run those scripts which are there for the testing of the model. Okay, so that is initially built by the implementation team. That's why the coding knowledge is important here. Now in production environment, model deploy, that is again a responsibility. So that is done by the implementation team. They give a go ahead that this is good to deploy. So they do user acceptance testing, then they do individual testing, then sometime they do integration testing. So all of these are done by the implementation team. Now the next role in this is model ongoing monitoring. Model ongoing monitoring. As the name itself says, that all the ongoing work performed by the model, like business usage, that the correct business usage is done by the model or not. Then performance monitoring. There are so many metrics to measure the performance of a model, like PS value, PSI, CSI, and so many other metrics, Z-score, all those things. So basically they checks the performance. So this ongoing monitoring team do that. Then drift monitoring. So they do check the drift, if there is a drift in the population in the model. So this is also part of their job. Then there's a periodic recalibration. What is the meaning of periodic recalibration? So after, let's say 4 to 5 years, market has changed, variable has changed, and so much data of the model also has changed. So these are the teams which tells the model developer that you need to redevelop the model, or the model needs some kind of recalibration work. This is basically rechecking your own model. So that is also done by this team. This team, people have more knowledge in terms of statistical concepts because they check all the statistical metrics. Okay. So now the next team is change management or redevelopment. We call it change management or sometime redevelopment. In some of the bank, there is no team like this. So this work is done by the model developer itself. Okay. But if there are any material changes, any model enhancement which are coming from the business or any redevelopment, if the performance issue is detected with the model, so that is properly done by this team. So this team either need to have the same kind of skill set, just like model developer. That is the reason that model developer usually do all this work. So this is a separate team in some of the multinational bank. Now there is a team that is the decommission team. So for every model, there are some decommission steps. So this team basically tells that when we need to retire the model, after checking the performances, after checking the governance, after checking the validation, everything they do check and they tell that this model need to be retired or that product has no more longer been part of the bank portfolio. In that case also, sometime they decommission the model. Now documentation and complete archive of the model is done by this team. And in some of the bank, this work is again done by the developers or the validator, because bank don't want to put a different team. But you can make sure that if you're part of this team, then you should be having a proper documentation knowledge and what are the root causes that you are retiring or decommissioning a model. Okay. Now, if somebody asks you that what are the teams in model life cycle, which team you are part of, so how can you explain that? I have given you that roadmap. Okay. So you can simply say that there is a whole pipeline in our company. So like model owner team is there, then model developer, then independent validation, then there is a governance team and approval committees in the bank. Then there is a model implementation team. Then there are ongoing monitoring team and maintenance team. And in the last, there is a decommission team. So all these 6 to 8 stages, okay, I'm calling it 6 to 8 because in some of the bank they combine it, right? That's why I'm calling it. Now I think this video would have given you a fair idea that what exactly the role which are there in the banks. Okay, now you can target your preparation as per the need where or as per the actually interest value you have, so you can check as per that. Now these are all the roles you can target in a credit risk model life cycle, because these are the teams which are working down in all the banks like JPMC, Citi, and all the big banks. Okay, so now if you like this information, make sure that you subscribe to my channel and please help share this video to your friends, your colleague, so that I can get a little bit of reach. Okay, now on that note, I'll say all the best to all of you. Thank you so much guys. I'll see you in the next video.